Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Truth with Terrence Roof. It's always a pleasure to be here. I got to start off first just with the NBA playoffs, man. I'm an NBA basketball fan, and so now that college is over, I gotta shift my focus. So I like the Lakers, but really I like Kobe Bryant. All right, so anybody know me know I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. So at that by default, I have to at least be kind to the Lakers. All right. So I'm not a LeBron fan. For those of you who are LeBron fans, but I am a Kobe. I am a Kobe fan. Now, for those of you who are old enough, you understand that there's a difference between a Kobe Laker and a LeBron Laker. Okay, there's a difference. So the Lakers survived. They survived their play-in. I'm not even used to the Lakers being at the bottom. I'm talking about Kobe's Lakers, okay? I'm not used to the Lakers being at the bottom of anything, okay? But, you know, LeBron won the play-in tournament championship. Not the play-in, but the 2020 championship. Some people don't even count that championship. Because I'm a Laker, I count it, okay? But we have had some hard times lately. But LeBron, I got to say, he ran into a Zion that was ready. Zion was ready. That's the first time I ever seen LeBron look small. Like Zion almost dunked on LeBron. LeBron was hurt. Like LeBron was on the ground, like squealing in pain. And you know LeBron has always been the biggest person on the court. Well, this Zion, I don't know what Zion ate for breakfast. I don't know if it was Wheaties. I don't know if it was Frosted Flakes, whatever it was. Zion was ready this playoffs, man. And so I watched the Lakers. I watched the Lakers get through that first round. I was impressed with them. But another thing that was big, the Warriors, man. The Warriors exit stage left. And I, since 2014-15, they pretty much dominated the league for a good while. People thought that they weren't going to lose for like 6 years straight. And then when they got Kevin Durant, people was like, forget about it. All right? So to see them sort of age in front of my eyes, man, it was something to see. And you know, I think Stephen Curry still has some years, but you're talking about a Klay Thompson with 0 points. So again, man, I mean, you know, I just like that every stage of this year's playoff is exciting. Like everything's exciting. Even yesterday, the Sixers versus the Heat, it was exciting. But just know, I'm a Kobe Laker, all right? It's a difference, okay? There's a huge difference. I'm a Kobe Laker. That means I was watching from 1999 to 2013-12, okay? That was my jam right there, okay? But no, I'm rooting for LeBron and AD. I think they're still a Laker, man. I'm rooting for them, but I just wish Zion would have broke through this playoff because he was playing amazing before he got hurt. So that's that. I want to at least touch base on that, man. But I want to pivot to our top 5 today. Our top 5 is going to center around the passing of an individual. This individual name was O.J. Simpson, a.k.a. the Juice, okay? The Juice before he turned into a criminal, okay? All right, so when he was playing, for those of you who don't know, you only know the old man O.J. Simpson. He was one of the greatest running backs of all time. Won a championship at USC. I mean, he was literally, they called him the Juice. You just go watch his highlight film, you see why. But he was one of the greatest of all time. Ended up rolling into broadcasting. You see people today that roll into broadcasting, you think it's a nuanced thing, but OJ was in commercials and everything way back then. And so OJ ushered in a world of sort of media, commercial, sort of branding long before LeBron or anybody else. And then when I was in middle school, there was probably the biggest crime of the century. I remember in middle school watching the White Bronco. Down to, like back in the day, there was only a few channels you could watch, okay? and O.J. Simpson, car chase was one of those things you had to watch. Matter of fact, they would turn off what you were watching so that you could watch O.J. chasing down the Bronco. But he just passed away from cancer, and cancer is another topic. I've been hearing cancer quite a bit lately, and I want to at some point have just a whole segment on just cancer itself, and maybe I can get my friend Richard from the American Cancer Society to come and join us, either on phone or in person. But I want to talk about some of the things that changed since his case. His case was a big deal. Now, mind you, I was in middle school, and the school stopped to watch the verdict, okay? Now, mind you, think about today. What has to happen today for a school to stop? The eclipse, okay? Literally, the earth have to align with the moon and the sun. With the moon and the sun in order for a school to, like, stop. That's what happened when OJ's verdict came out, okay? I'm little enough to know that it's racially important, but I'm also too little to understand the full ramifications. At the time, CNN was just launching. So the significance of CNN was like 24-hour news, okay? Before that, the news come on at certain places in time. You catch it. If you don't, you got to get it from somebody else. Then there's a newspaper that come out in the morning, okay? That's back in the day. Now, news is all the time, every second, every moment, all the time. So OJ was the case that was covered completely. So now, here are some of the lessons we learned, or some of the things that have changed since that case. Mind you, I was in middle school at the time, all right? So one of our top 5 is media spectacle. The trial was one of the first major cases to be broadcast live on television, transforming it into a nationwide media spectacle. This set a precedent for future cases and sparked debates about the role of media in the courtroom. So you might say, why? Who cares that the media is there? It used to be that you have to preserve the perception of the jurors, that you have to preserve the case that's being discussed in the courtroom so that it's not influenced by social narratives and dialogue. That used to be something that was desired. Now, how do you keep a juror, how do you keep a court case from being influenced by social pressure? And that's why there were debates around the media. You see it now. We have a president that's in the court case right now, today, okay? And that's one of the debates. How do we reduce the spectacle of this case so that the case can actually be heard and preserved in the nature in which it's being debated, okay? Number 2, public interest in the legal system. Now, before this time, we might hear the result of a case. But O.J. Simpson, you're watching him put on the glove. I remember he put on the glove didn't fit. And you had Johnny Cochran. For those of you who are not old enough, Johnny Cochran was legendary, okay? He was considered one of the greatest attorneys of all time. But he played to the influence of the media. He even had one-liners. If it don't fit, you got to acquit. People still say that to this day. To this day. It almost becomes a summary of the O.J. Simpson case, okay? But again, people had low interest. They only wanted to know what was the result. Now they're watching every minute of the case, everything, okay? Now, number 2, race relations. This is what I remember most as a young child. I remember that I was cheering for a victory for OJ, but I can't tell you why. I just know that it had implications that's connected to my culture, connected to my race. But that's how influential it was. I was in middle school. I didn't follow it day to day. I just knew there was a room that was cheering and a room that was not, okay? I mean, it was literally that heavy in a middle school, okay? But the case highlighted deep racial division within American society. Simpson's defense team framed the trial around issues of race and police integrity. And again, one of y'all know one of the key witnesses was a police officer, which resonated differently across racial lines, especially given the context of recent Los Angeles riots around the Rodney King beating. For those of you who don't know Rodney King and the Rodney King beating, please Google it, okay? All right, it was a significant moment in American history. There were riots, just like what you saw with George Floyd, okay? So please go and Google that information. Number 4, celebrity trials. All right, celebrity trial. This has changed since the O.J. Simpson case. The trial set a benchmark for how celebrity trials are handled and perceived. It underscored the complex interaction between celebrity culture, the media, and the legal system. Remember, at the time, O.J. was one of the biggest names in media. I think he did Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, whatever it was at the time. He was a big deal. His name was a big deal. All you had to say is the juice. The whole country knew who you was talking about, okay? All right, so he was a big deal. And so his celebrity trials set the tone for how we handle that in the future. Matter of fact, you can go on, I think it's HBO Max right now, and they have trials on there as 4 episodes. I mean, so now you just click and watch. You just go and check it out. But before O.J. Simpson, that was not a thing. Okay, that was not a thing. And the very last one, forensic science. For those of you who don't remember, it was probably one of the key elements in which O.J., if it don't fit, you got to quit. There's no blood, no fingerprints. All of that became a big, and then what the police did or did not do well in this area turned the case. The case brought forensic science, especially DNA evidence, into the public eye, emphasizing its importance in solving crimes, but also its limitations in the necessity of properly handling and interpreting the forensic expert. Now, I want to pause here for a second, okay? I want to take a quick DNA, science, police, accountability, race relations commercial really quick. All right, so for me, I was able to sit in some cases or observe some cases, especially when I was with the NAACP. I was able to see like sort of behind the scenes, behind the curtains, as you would say, for major court cases and who were key witnesses, et cetera. I was given sort of like a tour of the Innocent Project. If y'all don't know the Innocent Project at Duke, they try to get people who are on death row, and if they are innocent, they try to cover them to make sure that they are not dying as an innocent human being, okay? So they showed me that before DNA, it was just eyewitness. Before DNA, it was just persuading the jurors and eyewitness. So in our country, just the history of our country, especially race relations, if you look at the history, and I was just talking with someone in the studio about this, if you go and read the book Barbarian Virtues. Barbarian Virtues is not a new book, it's an older book, but it tells you how race was framed. Barbarian, meaning that at one end of that linear spectrum, at one end, the black race was closely aligned with animals or barbarians or non-civilized beings or animals. And then on the other end of that spectrum was civilized. And on that other end, and this is not Terrence speaking, this is science at the time, it was civilized Caucasian white culture. And so on that spectrum, the danger was in the darker the skin. It's just based on that spectrum. The closer to the skin tone or the darker the skin, you were closer to barbarian or animal characteristics. And it was very much an external observation. So what we saw. So the perception in our culture was that by default, even though I have a PhD, never been in any criminal sort of entanglements, I can be more associated with danger and violence than I would with civilized culture, just by default. That's just a part of our historical culture. Now, you don't have to take Terrence's word for it. There are books on this topic, okay? I just gave you one, Barbarian Virtues. But in Barbarian Virtues is about immigration. I want you to go and check it out. But so before the DNA, before we was able to test DNA, we were resting our cases on how you perceive blackness. Before DNA, it was once upon a time all white jurors. So once upon a time, and so some of this came out with the Emmett Till. You have Dr. Tyson out at Duke University who wrote this book. You could read his book on it. Again, this is not a Terrence story. This is just well-researched historical narratives. Now, DNA comes, and the Innocent Project starts finding that a lot of these dark bodies that's on death row did not do the crime. They actually were innocent. That's why it's called the Innocent Project. And they started defending people who was on death row for cases that had questionable evidence or had evidence that they can test to prove, to see if that DNA matched a human being or not. There's a documentary, I believe, on HBO or Netflix around the Innocent Project, okay? Very good documentary. But the moment they were able to test DNA, we didn't have to rely on perception of race to solve cases. And the numbers are alarming about the number of black or dark bodies who are on death row for cases that they did not commit versus any other race. And so O.J. Simpson was a victory much larger than just his case. And that's why forensic science played a huge role in that. I'm sorry I had to take you down that whole line, that whole journey. But when we get back from this brief just break, what I'll do is jump into some softer topics. But that's our countdown, our top 5 countdown for today. O.J. Simpson, the Juice. I'll see you on the other side.
Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air. And The Truth with Terrence Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The Truth with Terrence Ruth.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Now, I want to pivot to something that I was intrigued by. I'm running into several individuals, several young people, I would say between the ages of 20 and 30, who are talking about spirituality, but they're not meaning religion. So I said, what's the difference between the two of these? Okay, how do we separate these two? Now, I'm gonna give you just a little snapshot into my little background. When I grew up, religion and spirituality were the same thing. I'm talking about in my brain. Religion and spirituality was the same thing. If you would have said one versus the other, I couldn't tell you the difference. Also, I grew up in a church tradition that you would historically see, like in MLK's life, very much a church, black church tradition. That was my upbringing. I grew up in a very much Christian, black family, black clergy, black member framework. Now, so spirituality and religion meant the same thing. You could quiz me and I would put the same answers on both. So now I got these young people using these terms and they're not talking about the church. So I said, man, what is the difference between spirituality and religion? So they are distinctively different, okay? And they're being used different. Some people, when they go to their yoga class, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing, okay? So please comment and share. I'm telling you what I'm observing, okay? I could be on the wrong side of town. I'm telling you what I'm observing. Some people go to their yoga class and they call it a spiritual engagement. They call it a spiritual event, a spiritual moment, a moment in which they find peace and connection, okay? For me, I would have never associated, growing up, I would have never associated those two together. That's just my own traditional upbringing, okay? It would have been in a church. That was it. I couldn't name a spiritual moment that wasn't inside a church building, okay? Some people, it's a walk. It's with nature. So that's why I said we probably need to do a segment that separates these two things, okay? All right, so we're going to start with religion. We're going to start with old school Terrence, okay? All right, so religion by definition refers to an organized system of beliefs, practices, and rituals that connect individuals to the divine or the sacred, okay? Religion. Organized system of beliefs, practices, and rituals that connect individuals to the divine or the sacred. Growing up, that's all I knew. There was nothing else. There was no plan B. It was only plan A, okay? That's all I knew. Now, I know we have younger audiences growing up, and anything organized, there's sort of a mini protest against that. There's a desire for freedom beyond organized structures, okay? So external focus, okay? It is externally directed. So religion is externally directed, okay? Externally directed, involving communal worship, institutions such as churches, temples, mosques, and established doctrines. So again, we're pulling in Malcolm X. We're pulling all the rabbis that marched with Martin Luther King. We're pulling out King. That's pretty much what you're seeing in the civil rights movement, okay? All right? There's this sort of corporal worship. Then they had shared beliefs. Religions often involved a group of adherents who follow common teachings, moral codes, and tradition. Again, you go to the AME, you're going to know how to say the Decalogue by heart. You're going to be certain scriptures you know by heart. You go up in the Pentecostal movement, which I was raised in the Pentecostal movement. For those of you who don't know, please Google, okay? That's where you're going to get people running, shouting, and sweating in church, long services. That's going to be a norm to you. It's not going to be a negative. It's going to be a norm to you, okay? Then you had shared beliefs about who God is. Who are you to God and who God is to you, okay? This is all organized religion. So you had to have a set definition, which means it's organized. It's externally focused, meaning there's some sort of corporal communal worship. Then the religion involves everyone adhering to a set of rules or principles, or at least behaviors or moral codes. And then it's institutionalized. It is often institutionalized with clergy, rituals, specific places of worship, okay? Again, that's religion, okay? That's what I grew up with. So if you would have said spirituality, I would have just jumped right to religion and said that definition, okay? Now, they give some of the examples: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and other organized religion. Catholicism, which people would connect to Christianity, all right? So now, that's my old school, traditional, okay, 1937 way, okay? All right, now I'm going to skip over to the spirituality, the term that's used now when people are seeking spirituality, all right? Spirituality definition is a personal and internal experience. Now, mind you, religion was an external, all right? This one is the internal experience of the divine or the sacred, okay? Individually focused, not that corporal. Religion had more the communal. And it emphasized sort of like individual exploration, inner understanding, personal connection, or something greater than oneself. Now, mind you, again, I need y'all help, so please add some comments, okay? My religious experience was group-based. It connected me to my culture, my race, my family history. Spirituality is an individual journey. It's an individual focus. And so most of the individuals, when they're talking about yoga, they're talking about sitting with nature and silence and meditation. They're talking about internal, individual sort of journey and exposure. Again, I need y'all to help school me, okay? I'm old school. I'm 1937, okay? So I need y'all to help bring me up to speed, okay? All right? So the next one is freedom of expression. I'm going to tell you right now, I did not have that in my religious upbringing, okay? I did not have freedom of expression. Spirituality allows for freedom of interpretation and doesn't necessarily adhere to specific dogmas or rituals. Now, mind you, when I grew up, I was learning what the interpretation of the text was. As a child, they tell you stories, they tell you what the stories mean, they tell you who the characters are in relation to the divine. Spirituality, it's your interpretation. You tell me what you are seeing, hearing, feeling, thinking, journeying, okay? The very next one is subjective and intuitive. You know, so it's subjective, means it's up to you. It's based on your personal insights, your meditation, your mystical experiences. I'm going to tell you right now, when I was young, my interpretation was not important. It was not important. Now, my experience was valued, but how I saw the world and the text at that young age, again, I was younger when I was exposed to religion. Some people are experienced religion at different ages, so I'm only giving you my young experience. But here is very subjective, very individual-based. Now, examples, they give you meditation, mindfulness practice, connecting with nature. These are spiritual. So I just wanted to just wanted to just expose the two differences there. I'm running into a lot of people that talk about being spiritual. And on a previous session with you, we talked about how we are not selecting religion anymore, but we are engaging in spiritual practices. So for those of you who are trying to interpret this pattern, help me, okay? Call in, help me understand. But again, we're not selecting organized institutions, but we are still engaged in spiritual practice. So again, just wanted to touch that with you, the difference between religion and spirituality. Please call in, please send a message. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you religious or are you spiritual, okay? You tell me, all right? I didn't have that choice when I was young, okay? I was religious, okay? So if you have any questions or anything, please have your questions and comments. Call 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210, or you could call 252-937-7400, 252-937-7400. Please add your comments in the chat box or give us a call. I would love to figure out what's your thoughts on that, religion or spirituality. All right, y'all. So we're going to move on to the next segment, which is giving us a little top 5 on UNC. Instead of doing the top 5, we're just going to sit on one topic, okay? The North Carolina System's Board of Governors. If you don't know what that institution, that body is, please Google it, okay? Or whatever, AI it, whatever y'all do nowadays. But the UNC System Board of Governors recently made a significant decision regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, or for abbreviation, DEI. All right? During George Floyd 2020, you saw this rise in DEI positions, policies. You even could get degrees, certifications in this area. You saw a wave of books talking about it. So now we're seeing the pendulum shift the other way. Other states have led in this narrative. We touched on this a little bit in the previous session, but yesterday our UNC system made a huge decision. The UNC system committee voted to eliminate a key DEI policy that had been in place since 2019. This policy, titled Policy on Diversity and Inclusion within the University of North Carolina, had established jobs, metrics, and goals for DEI across the 17 schools within the UNC system. All right? The 17 schools are higher ed learning, okay? The UNC schools, higher ed learning. Now, I want you to understand here that to eliminate means these positions are gone, all right? These positions are not intact and they're gone. Mind you, these were jobs. Now, metrics. Metrics mean that they had to measure something, all right? They had to sit down and say, okay, this is where we want to be. This is where we want to go. These are our goals. And then they got rid of the whole thing, not just the job, but the metrics and the goals, all right? So this is recent, all right? The committee's decision set the stage for the likely elimination of many DEI-related administrative positions and offices at all of the state public universities. All right, I'm at NC State, so I mean we meet that criteria. we meet that criteria. So again, they're calling it the policy reversal. That's what they're calling it, the policy reversal. All right, now this is why you need to pay attention to this body in particular. Okay, this body in particular is critical. And before we even move on to that, we do have a caller, Kelly from Wilson, North Carolina. Welcome to the show.
All right.
Kelly, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, go ahead, Kelly. What you got for us?
No, I just overheard when you was talking about, are you spiritual or religious?
Yes. Yeah.
And I would say, like, growing up, I didn't really get into church when I was about 18. Mm-hmm. And I would say I was religious, and I thought that was, like, the thing to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And as far as, people saying being a Christian, and I thought that was, like, I'm not going to lie, I thought it was the popular thing to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, being in a part of a church and dealing with the organization, you know, I'm thinking, like I said, I didn't really join church until I was 18.
Gotcha.
So I'm thinking all the Christian church was the same. And so throughout the years, I noticed they're not.
Yeah. So
you know, I done been to churches, you know, traveling with churches, going to different churches, and I'm seeing like they're not really religious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it was as a business.
So Kelly, what at 18, who exposed you to religion? Because for me, it was a cultural pressure. It was almost like there was no option. It was Bobby Jones gonna be on the TV while we get ready. They're gonna be grits on the stove, and you're gonna dress up like I'm talking about full suit. And the van, we had vans. The van was leaving at 8 a.m. because we're going to get the Sunday school. We're going to then go to service. We're going to stay at the church. We're going to eat in the little hall, and then we're going to go to night service. But it wasn't a decision for me.
Yeah.
So for you, what was it what pressure did you feel to say, okay, this was the popular thing to do? What was that pressure?
No, it wasn't really a pressure. I'll put it like this. When I was a teenager, I used to see like kids that I grew up with, they went to church.
Got you.
So it was like, you know, elementary school, middle school, I see they go to church every Sunday school. And it was like, you know, I'll go.
Yeah.
Especially it was like, you know, special occasions like Christmas or Easter. You know, I wasn't really pressured to go to church when I was younger.
Got you.
But I would say my older brother, when he got out of prison, he was going to a church.
Got you.
And you know, I would say, you know, he influenced me to go because everything about him I wanted to be like.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, you know, about 4 or 5 years older than me. So he was a popular dude out in the street. So when he got out and he started going to church, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go too.
Yeah.
So I started seeing, you know, good into it.
Yep.
But then I want to say a couple years later, it was like, he wasn't going anymore. And then it was like, you know, it got to be something that, you know, changes ways. So I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a, you know, jump on a bandwagon type person. I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
So, like I said, when I turned 18, started going to this church and everything was going good. I got baptized and the whole 9 yards. Like we had you had to learn you had to learn each chapter in the New Testament, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we used to have quizzes, Kelly. We used to have Bible bowls.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying we used to have Bible bowl quizzes, man. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Having to memorize everything.
So that right there just made me feel like, okay, everything's cool. You know, it's kind of organized in here, and you know, people fall short. You know, you start seeing people coming, then they not coming for, you know, weeks, months, and then they come back and they go into the altar, and I'm like, you know, this. I think this is how it's supposed to go. Yeah. You know, but then it's like, you know, other people in the church. I'm not going to say. What I would say, I'm not going to say the pastor I was up under. I'm not going to say he was a bad influence. I'm not going to sit here and say he was the reason. It was the people in the church.
I got you.
So when I saw the people in the church, I started seeing other churches doing the same exact thing.
I got you.
So they got me to the point now, at the age I'm at, I'm spiritual. I believe in God. I believe it's a higher being. I believe, you know, you pray and you set your mind to it. Yeah. That what happened. But all this other stuff that they doing, like, I'm not into it no more.
And one last question for you, Kelly. Like, what made you hold on to an inner focus, an individual focus towards some sort of spiritual journey versus just going against all spiritual religious practice altogether? What made you say, okay, I want to hold on to it, and I'll let you go?
The experiences that I had.
I got you.
The things that happened in my life.
I got
you. You know, it was times, you know, I was between a rock and a hard place. And I'm not even talking about money. I'm talking about health-wise.
I got you.
And family members, and what I saw for my own eyes.
I got you. So if you had to give a vote, your vote is going towards spirituality.
Spirituality, yes.
And if you don't mind me asking, how old are you? I'm 41, 42. I can't remember, man. When you get old, man, you can't remember which one, man. How old are you? I just want to just because the study says around age groups. So I just wanted to know how old are you?
I'm 40.
Oh, so you're in my bucket. We together. We twins, man. Mm-hmm. Nah, Kelly, thank you for calling in, man. And we have your tally on the spirituality. And thank you for telling your story, man. I appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Please call us back.
All right.
All right, man. Take care. Yeah, so Kelly, really, I've heard several different. Thank you, Kelly, for calling in. I've heard several stories about church hurt. There's a pastor in Raleigh named Pastor Jerome Gay. He wrote a book on church hurt, and his target audience are African-American churches and people who are leaving that institution in an alarming rate. And so I'm going to see if I can get him on here or to call in at some point. But Pastor Jerome Gay actually wrote a book on that. And so I would love to have him come and speak to that. So I say that, Kelly, to say that there's people who are studying that mass exodus, but holding on to spirituality. When you read our hymns, old black hymns, there's a religious context, right? But then there's also a deep spiritual, something that links you to ancestors, right? Something that links you to a deeper story. And listening to you, you're saying, I've gone through too much. My story is rooted in too much ups and downs, and I got through it, that there has to be something that's keeping me. And so I just appreciate you telling your story, Kelly. And so what I'll do is I'll go back on, we'll take a little break, and then when we get back, we'll jump on over to the DEI conversation once again. And thank you, Kelly, again for calling in. See y'all on the other side.
Just prior to the truth. Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air, and the truth with Terrence Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The truth with Terrence Ruth.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Now again, I want to jump back into the UNC system, Board of Governors decision to eliminate DEI policies. All right, so before I get there, I want to open up the lines again so that you can call in, chime in, because this topic is going to touch the whole state, okay? And we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion policies that's literally got rid of jobs, metrics, and goals, and I'll touch a little bit more about that. But if you have questions or comments, again, call 919-872-9210, 919-872-9210, or 252-937-7400, 252-937-7400. Again, so the University System Committee voted to eliminate, the policy was called Diversity and Inclusion within the University of North Carolina, okay? Now, this touched across all 17 schools within the UNC system, all right? So this elimination cut jobs such as the system's office diversity and inclusion liaison, institutional diversity and inclusion officer, and the institutional inclusion executive, all right? So they proposed a replacement policy. All right, they proposed a replacement policy called Equality within the University of North Carolina. Equality within the University of North Carolina. Now, this new proposal does not reinstate the DEI jobs outlined in the policy I just told you got eliminated. So those jobs will not return. Instead, it emphasizes institutional neutrality. All right, so you have a DEI program, then you have the word neutral. I will give it to you to wrestle between those two terms, aiming to avoid politicalization and protect academic freedom. All right, they don't want this topic to be politicized, so they're framing it as DEI is a response to political culture, politicized narrative, social pressure, and also they are connecting it to not having academic freedom. Now, DEI when I hear it from scholars, is the idea to talk about and have the freedom to engage in academic freedom. So I would love to hear that case around how they're defining academic freedom. So that's the context, okay? The move comes against a campaign against colleges' DEI efforts by Republican politicians, which gained momentum in early 2023. So this is fairly new, everyone. All right, now, I always tell you to vote all year long, okay? I tell you to vote all year long because decisions are made in your absence in representation of you, okay? So even though you're not there, you elected somebody to represent you when decisions are made. That human being or that appointed board or that elected board makes decisions on your behalf, all right? So there has been a wider backlash against DEI in higher education around the country, okay? And that was more around admission standards, like who are you admitting into universities, et cetera. And so again, I just want you to know that this is not unique to North Carolina, but it's happening now. This vote was very recent. You had people who came out against DEI programs like Elon Musk, Ben Shapiro. Like some of these great sort of influential leaders in our country has come out against DEI programs, saying that they're lowering the standards for admissions. And so that had a big influence on that backlash against letting certain students into universities. Now, Governor Cooper expressed concerns about attacking diversity at public universities. Some of you might see this as a no-brainer, but it's a no-brainer to you, but clearly it's not a no-brainer to everyone. Since a vote was taken and the Board of Governors have voted against the DEI programs and replaced it with equality within the university system as a policy, okay? So your governor, your current governor, has expressed concerns. He emphasized that diversity should highlight the state's strengths rather than political division. Cooper warned that undermining diversity efforts could impact the recruitment of top scientists, researchers, and innovators who contribute to the state's economy. Now, why would he go there? Why would he jump to say that if we attack diversity programs, that it will hurt our recruitment to get top scientists, researchers, and innovators? Well, believe it or not, a scholar out of the school of UNC, that's the light blue, okay, for those of you who don't know the different blues, UNC, a scholar for a long time, has said that we are seeing the browning of America. That's literally the title of his research. The browning of America, which includes North Carolina. We are still a part of America. The browning of America, which means that we are growing at a faster rate than white, Caucasian, non-Hispanic individuals, which means that over time, we're going to see a browned America, which means that our scientists, our doctors, our top tech leaders, our innovators will more than likely, just based on the pattern of growth, will be brown. Just not my research. I encourage you to go UNC, the browning of America. That's all you got to do. Put it in Google, browning of America, UNC. It'll give you everything. So that's why Cooper is warning. Also, we are seeing a generation that do not see race the same way old America saw race. It's actually the generation that's in high school and in college right now, and they said that they're most tolerant generation of all time in American history. They're even saying that this generation do not see the same things we see, but we're still making decisions based on old America. And so that's why Governor Cooper will make the connection between future talent and current decisions around scientists, innovators. Now, the reason why I think that's intriguing as well is because the default perception of poverty and low talent are black faces. So normally by default, people assume that the lower wage earners by high volume are African Americans. But in North Carolina, there are 500,000 poor black individuals, versus 700,000 poor white individuals. This is not even a close race. This is not even I don't want to talk about it in terms of race or competition. But I'm saying the perception rests on black bodies, even though there are more white residents in poverty than there are black residents in poverty in North Carolina. And the idea that poverty, the perception of poverty, the perception of low talent, the perception of the members of our society that drags our economy, as some people think, are brown faces, means that you're ignoring 700,000 white poor people who need support as well. So the perception of poverty still rests on brown faces, when we need to make sure that we are serving all people that are in low resource. So again, I just thought it was intriguing that he connected the browning of America, black and brown faces, with the highest talent that we want to keep, that we want to preserve, that we want to attract to our states for the jobs, the Apples, the Googles, the IBMs, all the Red Hats, all the big companies that are coming here. They are hiring the top talent, and the top talent will more than likely become more black and brown with the browning of America based on the UNC research, all right? So with that, I want to make sure that we take one last break, and when we come back, I'll close this out. But again, I want y'all to think on that, okay? On the browning of America, UNC, Google it, see you on the other side.
Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air, and the truth with Terrence Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The truth with Terrence Ruth.
All right, y'all, I'm going to close out with 3 stories. They're more U.S. stories and international, and then I'll let y'all go and enjoy your Thursday. All right, so first one, I want to, if you haven't been paying attention to the Middle East, please pay attention to the Middle East, okay? What we are seeing in America is a response to what's happening in the Middle East. I'm talking about the Israeli-Palestine. I mean, basically it's a war, but it's a conflict over land and history and future in the Middle East, and it's not calming down. Okay, and so I just want, and I think there is a new country in the Middle East that's joining the conflict. And so please keep your eyes out and alert on this issue, because it's now impacting our college campuses. A Jewish student at Columbia University really was disturbed by the fiery sort of anti-Israel protests on campus. You had other campuses that felt disturbed or concerned about the anti-Palestine protests on campus. So again, your campuses are lighting on fire across the country, even your Ivy League, okay? And so just pay attention to the issues. It's a hot topic. The next one, Bank of America is dealing with allegations of de-banking conservatives. A group of 15 state financial officers has put Bank of America on notice, warning against alleged discrimination against conservatives and religious Americans. Again, I want you to keep your eyes out on, I'm going to call it the pendulum switching on back over to the other side. And I'm going to close with this question, and I want y'all to process this. Is America in decline? Is America in decline? The question of whether America is in decline has been a reoccurring theme for many, many years. Charles Dickens once observed that America is always in an alarming crisis and never otherwise. So again, observe your country, love your country, but be vigilant and be a critical thinker. Until next time, Terrence Ruth, The Truth, always a pleasure to be with you. See you next week.
Every time I step in the booth, I speak the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you.
You're live on the air, and the truth with Terrence Ruth. North Carolina news and politics, culture, sports, and the latest from the Triangle and Eastern Carolina. The truth with Terrence Ruth.